Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everybody. Get that starting off soon. Starting soon off. Alright, let's get everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining us today. My name is John McLauchlan. You are with JAmemories for Tech Talk. We are back. Is the audio levels good? I'm going to assume until I hear people talking, yelling, and screaming that they can't hear me, I'm going to assume it is working. Alright, we are having some fun. The answer, I got asked, text message. Isn't this supposed to be week 2 or part 2? And the answer to that question is yes. It is supposed to be part 2. I just did not get to the graphic in time, and when I got home, my wife had a project that she wanted to work on. So instead of updating my graphic, I worked on her graphics and got her stuff done. And I said, you know what? I got 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and just get the picture up there, get going, and we'll have fun either way. So, what's going on today? We are talking about lighting. We talked briefly last week about we talked about we weren't live last week. First off, there was something going on, and the something came up. No, I take that back. I was not feeling well last week, so I did not go live last week. So, with that being said, this is part 2. So, but 2 weeks ago, we started talking basically layout of lighting, and we talked about the fact that lighting is one of those areas of broadcast that takes a lot of time, lots of effort, and it is affected by a myriad of other pieces that go into the broadcast. Whether it be live in-person broadcast, whether it be on camera and whatnot. Now, Jeff is saying that the audio is a little hot on the audio, so on the music. So I'm gonna bump it down a second if I can. I think that did it. Alright, I think that did it. So Jeff is giving me a hard time. So I want to say a big thank you to Constance for coming on. Hey, bro. Always enjoy the fact that you hang out with us when you can. So thank you for hanging out. And of course, Jeff says, good evening, everyone. So, and then I assume the thumbs up is an indication that the audio is doing good, video looks good. So we are moving on to other things. And music is up a bit. So I lowered the music a little bit. Let me know if it's still too loud or if it needs to be bumped down some more. All right. Other than that, I'm not going to comment on the graphics because I already did. So we talked about the different areas. We talked about just different styles of lighting, 3-point lighting, area lighting, focused lighting. And we'll get into a lot more of that over time. But today I want to focus on Kelvin and color temperature, and thus talk about indoor shooting and outdoor shooting. We touched on it a little bit last time. I want to delve into it deeply tonight and talk about why it's important. and how you should light in order to get the best feel for your thing. So we're going to look at some graphics, we're going to look at some graphs, and we're going to look at some demos of different lighting, color temperatures, and things like that. So if you have any comments, leave them in the chat. I will get to them as we go. I may skip over some stuff and then come back to it. I may acknowledge it right away. So don't think I'm ignoring you, but I do see all of your chats. Now, for those that are new here to the channel, this is JAmemories Tech Talk. So obviously the sponsor of the video is JAmemories. Here at JAmemories, our goal is to see churches, individuals, businesses, and small corporations succeed in the digital world, one client at a time. So if you have a project, if you're trying to get into the digital footprint, if you're wanting to advance your audio and video, reach out to us. You can leave a comment in the videos. You can leave a comment in the chat. You can email me. My email is john@jamemories.com. You can, and don't forget, make sure you hit that like button on the videos, and also subscribe to the channel if you're not already done so. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone who does do that. So, with all of that being said, what is color temperature? What are the differences in color temperature that makes it all that different? And if I can hit my buttons correctly, there we go. Color temperature scale. Of course, my camera is in the wrong spot again, but we are, if this comes up right. Yeah. Lighting part 2, color temperature. The color temperature is taken on a Kelvin scale, all the way down from 1500. This one is 2700, all the way down to, all the way up to 5000. But it actually goes 1500 Kelvin, all the way up to like 9000 Kelvin. But basically, this is a quick graph of what is out there on how to get your color differences. The lower the color temperature, the lower the number, the warmer you are. So if you're at 27, then you're very warm. You're orange, and then you progressively go up and up and up and up to 5,000. In the broadcast world, we pretty much live in the 27 to 5,000 range, and that's typically where most broadcasters will live, somewhere in that range, depending on what they're doing. Now, for the most part, in a studio environment, you have one temperature, and in an outside environment, you'll have a different one. And we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. But one thing to keep in mind is that your color temperature is based on your preferences. It is very important to understand that just because you have you're shooting in a certain environment doesn't mean you can't change the color temperature. A lot of lights nowadays, especially the LEDs, come in what's known as a bicolor LED, or you can buy an LED in a certain color temperature. A perfect example of this, even outside of the broadcast video world, is the light bulbs that you buy for your home. do you like the cool whites, which typically run anywhere from about 4,000 to about 5,000 Kelvin? I don't know. This has nothing to do with how hot the bulb is or the actual temperature in your hand. It has to do with what your eye perceives and what color is being projected out of it. I just got a text. Let me check it. I've been talking with actually, that is a new client I am meeting tomorrow at his church. So we'll talk briefly about that. So I apologize for checking my phone during a live broadcast. But you gotta do what you gotta do. So that is a perfect example. The light bulb that you buy in your home. Do you like the warmer tones? The warm light. And a lot of times on the packages of light bulbs, you'll see cool or warm. And based on what you prefer, if you like the more orange colors in your home, more down to an earthly tone, then you'll go with the warmer lights. If you like the cooler lights, if you like the more bluer colors, then you'll go with the higher Kelvin lights. And you can see everything from a 32K up to a 5,000, 5,200 Kelvin. So, okay. So, let me respond back to this. Right now, thank you. See you tomorrow. Okay. So I got that taken care of. Hopefully that wrapped that up. Okay. So let's look at another example of color temperature, and this is another example of color temperature gauge that typically people will use in their spectrum. Hopefully you guys can see this and get your bearings on the picture below. Doing this backwards here, right there. So as you can see, 1,500 all the way down on the orange side. Warm light typically is roughly around 3,000. 4,000 is what you consider neutral light. It's one thing to keep in mind when you're getting the fixtures is if you get a bi-directional, not bi-directional, but bi-color LED. And this is where people can save a little bit of money, but yet still have to compromise on what they're being pushed out. On a bi-color LED panel, in order to get the most intensity out of that light, you have to run around 4,000, 4,100, so that you then can get the most out of that light, because both LEDs are at full intensity. At the 30,000, your warm LEDs will be at full intensity, and the white LED, the cool white, will be completely off. And the same thing at the 5,000 Kelvin, you'll have your 30K warm LEDs turned off, and the 5,000 LEDs cool white at full intensity. So right around 40, 41K, you're then sitting at full intensity. And that's one of the compromises you have to make when you get bi-color LED panels, which is what I run for my key lights. And we will play around with a little. I've got one light I can play around with tonight and show you the difference on camera and actually get a real world experience as to what that could potentially be. So, a perfect example would be I've got a color temperature scale with an actual picture in it. This will give you a clear distinction in a simulated fashion, but you can see clearly between the warm and the cool. So here we go. So 1000 to 2000 Kelvin typically is your candlelight color temperature. Okay, I mean, you're going to be very orange, you're going to be very bright, and actually you're not going to be very bright because you're running on candle, but still, it's got that orange glow from the flame. A campfire, something like that. Sunrise or sunset would typically be around 25 to 35K. In the broadcast world, that's where a lot of people like to live. In the about 32K is right around where broadcasters like to live, especially when they're indoor running their studios, which we'll get to in just a few minutes. 4,000 Kelvin is right around the neutral, straight up sun straight up above, around noon. Now, if you're in overcast skies, you typically will be around 45 to about 5,500. If you're going to be outside, you're going to probably use an HMI light, which typically is right around 52K. So you're wanting to do that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. And then clear blue sky, straight up, nice and bright, sunny day. That's going to be about 6,000 Kelvin and upwards. So you want to make sure that you know what environment you're doing. Now you sit there and go, well, what's the difference? Well, if you look right below the chart, you see the difference. You can actually see the contrast between what the lighting will do to a picture, to a face. Look at the couch. The couch is white, right? And you know the couch is white. But between the orange light and the blue light, there's a clear distinction between what is there and what is not. And, no matter how much white balance you can tweak on camera, you can tweak the color balance, shift the color temperature a little bit, but you always want to make sure that you're shooting the lighting is as close to what you want without having to do any augmentation to the camera, because the more augmentation you do to the camera, the more likely you are to have problems down line. So it's crucial that you get to what you're typically looking for. Now, there are some broadcasters that love the blue look. That is what they're known for, and that's what they're going to shoot for. So whether they're in the studio or if they're outside, they're going to get their lights set to 52, 55K, and that's where they're going to live. And vice versa, they're going to do the same thing if they more likely like the warmer tones. I personally like the warmer tones. I typically will get a warmer tone and try to color temperature my shots down to about 32. I typically like 32K, but I will accept maybe a 28. Anything less than 28, it gets too orangey. Anything above 34, I feel like is leaning more towards the blue side. So I typically like 32, but I'll give about 400 Kelvin in there, and and that's both on the video side as well as on the stills. So unfortunately, because I am, like I mentioned, I am running by color LED panels, we are living at 41K in this studio. Now, what does that do to my face? I kind of got a little bit more pale than I would normally be. If I changed over the lighting to more towards the 32K, you would see a distinctive difference in the tone but I wouldn't have as much light in there. So yes. So bear with me. I've got a client who's texting back and forth. Let me see. Yeah, I'll read through that later. That's a long text message. So, and that's one of the things about being a consultant. You get text messages all the time. So we just, bear with me. Thank you for doing that. So let's just do something right now. I've got a light right above my head. It's a little bit higher than so now I'm at 41K on this slide as well. I'm going to bump it down. I just changed that. I don't know if you saw that. I just changed it. If you look at the background, it has a little remote here that I can change. So right now we're running at 50K. So if I do this, that's 32K. Now, you may notice it more on the background, not me. But if you look at the back wall, right back here, you can see a little bit more. And it's also on my hat. You can see the gray change. That would be a warm, more warm tone, which we will leave it there. Now, see that light right there? The light is literally right here. That's the beauty of broadcast. You can actually put your light literally right on the edge of your frame, and that's what the job of the light is. So I put that right there. Now on my back, actually does better. Now if I cycle through the lights, you'll see it better. Actually gives me a blue tint on that one side. So if I go back to my neutral color, I'm actually matching now all the colors, and all the lights are back to the same color tone, which then the white balance is even. So one of the things that you have to remember is if you've got a mix of different lights, say you have 32K light, a 52K light, and a 41K light, you're never going to be able to mix your color temperatures, your image is going to look weird because you got different competing lighting sources, and that color temperature is going to be, it's going to look in real life like this picture is right here. It's going to look just like this picture, like that picture right there. It's going to look like that all the time. Half the picture is going to be blue, half the picture is going to be orange, and it's going to be competing against each other. So at that point, if you can't do it by blending the colors together on the actual fixture, what you have to do then is get gel to neutralize the color and get it to the same color temperature. They actually make gel that converts one color temperature to another color. So if you're taking a 32K light and taking it outside to do an outdoor shoot, you would use the gel on the 32K that would convert it over to a 52K light. And vice versa, if you're taking a 52K light, bring it into an environment where you're shooting everything else at 32K, you would need the gel that converts it over to 32K. And it's very important to know the rough estimates of the color temperature. Now, some similar areas where this comes into play is if you're shooting in an arena that has basketball lights or theater stadium lights. They are typically closer to the 60K, because remember, they're outdoors, so they're going to be the outdoor lighting. They're trying to create that natural look, so you're going to have to convert your gels or lighting to that if you add more. Those are all things to consider when you're when you're picking your lights, when you're picking your environment, figuring out what color you're looking for. And it comes back to, again, what you as the individual is wanting the overall final image to look like. And I can't stress it enough that you have to have an idea of what your overall image is supposed to look like before you jump head in. Because if you don't, you're going to get so overwhelmed with not knowing what your overall image is supposed to be. Now, does that mean you have to pick one and stick with it? No. Does that mean that you can't make changes after you've already done several shows? Absolutely. You can, by all means, yet change your mind, at any given time. I can convert all of these lights over to 32K and with just a few tweaks be back up and running at 32K compared to 40K. Simply because that's what I want. No, 4K. 3200 compared to 4K. Now, so what does this have to do with outdoor, indoor, and whatnot? Well, it's very important to understand, first off, the natural order of things. And talking about natural, if you are outdoors, if you're outside, you have this humongous natural light source. What is that natural light source? this thing called the sun. The sun is God's great light bulb up in the sky. Okay? And if you try to shoot outside, you're going to have to consider that in your shooting. Now, like we discussed on this picture, there's a natural order to the color temperature of the skies outside. So, I mentioned earlier the light that the HMI. An HMI light is a big light that puts out a lot. I mean, I think we had one that was 5,000 watts of power. It is a very bright light, but it shoots at, I believe the one we had was 52K. It's designed to provide light outside. Now, if you've ever watched movies at night, right? If you watched a movie that was shot at night, and all of a sudden you saw this big, humongous, bright light in the background, or you saw a beam, they created that with a light source outside. And they could choose to shoot with a 32K light. At night, it's easy to do that simply because you're not competing with the sun. Now, if the moon's out, you do have to compete with the moon. So, how do you compensate for that? What are some of the things that you can do when you shoot outside to overcome the overbearing light source known as the sun? Well, a few things to consider is the natural barriers that would block the sun from getting on where you're shooting. Tree, building, people. Creating a natural shadow where you could position your talent in such a way that they're not being overbearing, overpowered by the sun. Another thing to consider is, okay, so overhead light, if you've ever known an overhead light situation, you get, if you see right here on my forehead, you see this shadow. And there's a reason I'm wearing my hat tonight. Besides the fact that my hair looks like a mess. But the real reason is it creates a shadow. So if I take my hat and do this, I have it on my head like this, and I can't see the lights. But you as well can't see my eyes because it's now being shadowed by the brim of the hat. So now when I tilt my hat up, it actually creates a better shot because now my face is getting hit with the lights and they're getting into my light sockets. We did talk about the lighting positions last time, and we will discuss that again later on, but that comes into play about that comes into play when you're looking at how to get the best image. Another big solution in major movie pictures is they use this big white, it's not transparent, but it's translucent flag that sits over where they're shooting, and it basically creates a natural light box because it's overhead, it's in between the light, and so you see how my hand becomes a natural barrier behind the light. You can see me flagging off my light. Let me get up a little bit more. Nope. There we go. It's literally right at the end of the frame. But, so you can block, if you put something in between the light and the talent, if it's black or solid, it completely block it out. If it's translucent or has holes, it'll create, if it has holes, they'll create an effect. So it's known as a gobo. You see how my hand has some, I've got some shadows over here on my side and I'm getting a natural look. Well, that's all created because I've got a gobo in front of my light. Of course, my gobo is my hand, but my hand has natural holes that the light shoots through, so the light is full intensity where my hand is not, and where my hand is, my fingers, it then blocks the light. So you can use a gobo or a sheet of paper, copy paper is a great diffuser. Sheets, sometimes depending on how much you're trying to block. If you're trying to block less, you'll use something with a little bit less filmy, a less thickness. If you want to block more, you'll use more thickness on your gel. But and here's the thing, going with just a piece of white paper or diffusion, that does not change your color temperature. And that's key because you sometimes don't want to change the color temperature because you want that 50K or 52K or even 6,000 Kelvin so that you can get that color temperature. So I've been saying, I apologize, I'm going to say it right now, I've been saying 30K, 50K, then it's not 30K or 50K. It's 3,000 Kelvin, 4,500 Kelvin. So I apologize if I confused anyone. The color temperatures, like the chart says right here, goes from 1,000 Kelvin all the way up to 7,000 Kelvin. And that's what the K stands for, is for Kelvin. And that's how you measure your color temperatures. Indoor, you have the freedom to shoot whatever color temperature you want. Now, a few caveats to that statement is, do you have any open windows? If you, okay, so, of course, Jeff says, not like the subject isn't confusing enough, just make it harder for us, John. Yes, I confused you, and I apologize. And, that's just, hey, if you've ever actually read any of my written paperworks, that gets even worse. So that's just natural. I say things and then I realize, well, I've said it wrong. Do I correct it or not? I better correct it because, like Jeff said, it could be confusing. So, so indoors, the caveat to the statement that you can do whatever you want is the space that you're in. Do you have any windows, glass doors, anything that lets light from the outside into the room, known as natural light? I'm not talking about the natural light that's caused by the overhead lights. I'm not talking about, because that is again artificial light. Um, Now a skylight up in the ceiling, that also creates natural light into the room. So when you, that then becomes one of your light sources. When you go into when you get into a situation where you, as the lighting director, have to decide what your initial lighting design is going to be, you need to consider the space by which you are doing whatever you're doing, whether it be a photo shoot, a video shoot, a live performance, and you need to consider all of the factors of lighting. That is even before you start thinking about what fixtures you're going to use. Are you competing with an outdoor arena, an amphitheater? Are you dealing with an open air covered building? Are you dealing with a building that is surrounded by glass? It's inside, but yet it's surrounded on both sides from glass. And then let's say you are dealing with a glass enclosure. Is that glass tinted in any way? And I'm not just talking about, is it tinted to keep some of the light out? Is it color tinted? Is there a blue sheen on it? Is there a red sheen? Is there a purple sheen? Or whatever it may be. All of those things are things that you need as the lighting director to understand when you walk into something. I remember when I was a student at ORU, the chapel had glass windows on both sides of the chapel. So depending on what time of day chapel was and what time of year it was, the sun would literally be casting a light across the stage. Now, we typically lit, because I actually did work on lighting in the chapel, we actually lit with straight 32K lights. And when the light from the sun came into the chapel and cast the light, whether it be over the audience or over the stage, it didn't matter. It was a distinctive blue line across whatever was there, the audience, the stage, or whatever. And you could, and there was nothing we could do. Because, once again, you're dealing with the sun being a major light source. And no amount of light inside can compete with the light shining through the outside. That is one of the reasons when you shoot a photography, one of the first rules of thumb that you learn is not to shoot with natural light in front of a window. Because you're going to, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to have to open up your iris so much that the window behind it is bloomed out. Or number two, you're going to close the iris on your camera so low that all you get is a silhouette. Now, if that's the image and the look that you're looking for, then by all means, shoot in front of the window and get your silhouette. Because there are plenty of reasons and plenty of artistic designs that come into play um, using a silhouette. And some of the greatest artists and photographers know how to manipulate the image in such a way that silhouettes play a major part of that. Now, you can use artificial lighting inside to brighten up your talent and shoot them in front of the window. But once again, the outside light is so bright, the amount of light you have to produce as artificial is so extensive. So one of the things that people do when they're shooting in a environment that is surrounded by lights is what they'll do is they'll put film not on the light to change the color temperature of the light, but what they'll do is they'll put film, some kind of film. It's a color temperature film designed to go over lights. No, I take that back. It's designed to go over windows. It's the same thing as what, same idea as what they do when they tint a car window. Basically, you're tinting the window in order to change the light. One, change the color temperature of the light coming in. And typically you'll do that to get your cool light when once it enters the room back down to a warmer light. But you're also doing it in such a way that will knock the intensity down. Now, one of the caveats to that is anyone who's ever been outside will know the sun is not always the same brightness every moment of every day. You have natural barriers known as trees. So as the sun is going up and a tree stands here, depending on where the sun is, that shadow from this tree will change. You also have clouds. Clouds are a natural barrier for the, and Jeff just said that, clouds. Clouds are a natural barrier. Now, clouds are a great barrier to get really nice pictures outside. We actually, in the photography world and in the video world, love cloudy days. And that's because it creates that barrier. It's almost like when you bring a softbox in. It diffuses the light. It smooths the skin out. It makes the everything a little bit smoother. The sun, by natural order, is a very sharp, intense light. It's what you get a lot of harsh shadow. You can literally take a person, and the sun's right here, blazing bright in my face, right? And if it's straight on, it's pretty much my face is even. But if that sun's right here, and I turn, and I'm shooting straight on from right here, I'm going to have a very distinct shadow on my nose. Half my face will be light, and half my face will be dark. Now, again, some people love that look. Some people love that harsh distinction. And you can use that in an artistic way. You can use that in a dramatic way. You can use that in, clouds are a natural diffuser. And photographers love to do shoots on a cloudy day. One other, you also love as a photographer try to get right at right after dawn, and also right near the end of the day, right before the sun sets, right at dusk. Two perfect times to take awesome pictures. And I'm not just talking about the sunsets and the sunrises. I'm talking about people shots and natural, um, what's that? I can't think of the name. Nature shots. Um, you know, and that's the thing about it is, and it all comes down to this, and we've talked about it several times now. What look are you looking for? What is your ultimate desire? And as a individual, we all have our own likes and dislikes. I mentioned I love the warm look. I'm not big on the cool side. Not to say that people who do shoot in cool and make everything cooler, their stuff I don't like. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's one of those things that we all have our own preferred look when it comes to lighting, when it comes to color temperature and stuff. So figure out as we wrap up today, figure out what color temperature you like, and in all honesty, a lot of times people don't even recognize if the lighting is done right, whether you're 32K, whether you're 52K, if the lighting is right, the camera's set right, and all things are even, you're not even going to be able to tell to a great extent what color temperature was used. Now, does that mean that you'll never tell, or you won't ever be able to tell what is being done? Absolutely not. Some of the greatest, a perfect example of this is if you've ever seen National Treasure, the first one. You see them outside when they first find the Charlotte. You see them outside digging out the Charlotte ship, and you see, I apologize if I'm spoiling the movie for anyone, but you see them outside digging out the Charlotte ship, and it's nice and soft, and you kind of got this warm look on them, even though they're in the intense outdoors. But once they enter the ship and once they get down into the cold depths of the ship, you notice a blue haze over the lens, and you got this blue sheen over the entire image. Now it's done in such a way that the people don't look completely washed out and blue. We're not talking about making people look like Smurfs here, but it's done in such a way that you can tell, hey, they went down, they're more into the 65, 70K, 6,500, 7,000 Kelvin color temperatures in that boat. And it's done in such a way that, the normal viewer is not thrown off by it, but somebody who works in the industry can tell, hey, that is definitely a cooler, whether that was done by natural, just the natural area that they were shooting at. If that was done in a sound stage, did they change the color, lights? I don't know. That I would be interested to know, is that actually outdoors in the cold, or is that more of a, hey, let's add some blue lights here to kind of get that color temperature down. Or it could just be that they cooled it off in post. You actually can take a picture and change the color temperature just with a couple of sliders. Now, like I said, you gotta do it with class and you gotta do it with finesse, so that you're not creating Smurfs or Oompa Loompas. And you got the orange people, the Oompa Loompas, and then you got the blue people, the Smurfs. We're not trying to make either one of them. So you got to keep that in mind when you're dealing with color temperature. And you can do that, make both of them with lighting. You can do that with, and one of the biggest challenges is taking your camera and making the difference between the color temperature that you're shooting the lights with and the color temperature of your camera. You want to make sure they're spot on. You don't want to be shooting a light at 4100 and have your camera set for 32. And vice versa. You don't want to be shooting at 32K on the bulb and have your camera set for 55K, 5500. Okay, so that wraps it up today, talking about lighting. Next week, we're going to discuss how lenses and camera sensors play into the lighting. So if that interests you, stick around for next time. And let me see if there's any other comments in the comments. Helps if those on screen don't have 5 gallons of makeup either. So I will tell you, on camera, okay, when you're doing true broadcast, the amount of makeup someone has to use, I don't use makeup. I'm not doing a professional video where I throw makeup on and stuff like that. But on defense of what Jeff is saying here, it does, if you actually look at somebody who's made up, if you actually look at the person with your human eye compared to what the camera sees, you can tell that there is a lot of makeup on that face. Almost to the point where it looks like 5,000 gallons of makeup is used on someone's face. Now, that does not come across on the camera. If it's done well, you'll never know that it's on that much camera. It shows you don't, John. Well, I'm not sure how my wife would appreciate me putting makeup on every time I get on camera. Now, if I had very oily skin, I would have to use powder, because then, if my skin was very oily, I would be reflecting back. So that powder is a good natural diffuser on the face to keep your face from shiny, being too shiny, especially for those who have oily skin. Lower quality camera makeup is great. High quality 2K, 4K, less is more. Okay, so yeah, in the olden days when you had SD cameras, and we're kind of getting into next week's topic, but I will talk since I did bring it up, but actually Jeff brought it up. But anyway, the lower quality cameras, the SD cameras, you actually had to use more intensive makeup. There were people in the industry who actually went to school. You have the people who work in studio, in salons and things and makeup, and then you have those who go to school for makeup specifically for movie artists and makeup artists. Their actual title is makeup artist. And every major TV studio, anyone who actually does broadcast, if they're serious about their show, will have a makeup artist on staff. Simply because it's an art form to make the face look natural while applying makeup. Now, higher quality cameras, even HD cameras, not just 2K. So a 1080 camera, a 2K camera, which is about 20,000 pixels, 4K, which is about 4,000 pixels. It's not so much you have to use less, your technique becomes different. I remember when we first upgraded our cameras from SD to HD, the makeup artist we were using actually had to go back and relearn some of the makeup rules and makeup techniques, because you had to change how you do your makeup, how you blend things, and how you make things look natural. Because at the end of the day, that's the ultimate goal, is to make the person on camera look natural. Because it comes back to the human eye is always adjusting. It's always doing contrast and saturation adjustments, color temperature adjustments. It's doing all of these things at the split of a second. People don't even realize when they walk from inside to outside that your eyes are adjusting the color temperature at which you see, so that white inside looks the same as white outside. A camera, even in auto exposure mode, does not have the range that the human eye has. If you take a piece of paper and you shoot it inside, take that same camera with the same settings outside, it's going to look different. And that goes back to our color temperature gauge that we saw. So the makeup had to be applied differently. The difference in the lenses, which we'll talk about next week, plays a big part in that. So don't worry about it, Jeff. I always appreciate comments and questions that stir the conversation in the way that you guys are thinking. So I'll give you about another minute to come up with anything else. If you have a comment and you watch the show on the replay, leave a comment in the comment section of the video, and I'll do my best to get back with you on that. Any questions? Don't forget, check out JAmemories.com. Excuse me. Also, email us at john@jamemories.com. We do provide a free consultation, an initial consultation, to figure out, one, what your issues are, and two, if we're a good fit for what you're looking for. Because I'll be honest with you, I can't fix everything. As much as I would love to walk into every situation and be the end all, know all of every situation that comes up, I can't. So, and let me reach out to make sure that the people know that this is a AV company, an audio video company. So please don't give me your personal issues and all of that, because that will not go over well for either one of us. On that note, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for taking the time to watch these videos. And if you find yourself coming back and you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you love to know when we put new content up or we go live, we hit that notification bell and turn that on so that you'll be told when we go live at the end of Jeff left a comment that just threw me off, and I apologize. Anyway, you all have a blessed week. We typically go live every Thursday night, 8 o'clock, right here on YouTube. So now that it's 9 o'clock, that is 8 o'clock Central Time. I should say that. 8 o'clock Central Time, we are live on Thursday nights. So God bless you all. We will all have a great week, and you be blessed. Thank you, and have a good night.